Hi, everybody. Quite a weird setup this time for a guy with a scarf. I was invited by ABLY, company that provides a platform infrastructure for real-time, low-latency data distribution in different ways that is perfect for fun engagement experiences. They created this event at AWS in New York in late May called the Real-Time Fun Engagement Summit. It was a cool gathering of people in the industry. We spent a few hours in a lot of engaging discussion. We had to stop at 6 p.m., which is weird for people in the industry to still want to stay and debate so late in the afternoon. So what I want to do now is, if you want a quick run through of the keynote that I did, because I think there are certain elements, and I saw it also from the conversation with other people there, that can be interesting if we look at fun engagement and the real-time experiences we can build today around fun engagement. Fun engagement is such a generic term that let's try to see if we can untangle a bit, as always, what it means. And fun engagement is real-time seems a bit of a stretch, but I want to see if there is a multi-dimensional aspect of real-time. Not only clearly in sport, real-time is kind of, why sport exists, or real-time exists in sports as a core element. But also there are certain things in fun engagement that are happening in real time beyond the sport per se. What I want to do is kind of a state of the nation, but also looking ahead, especially looking ahead, with no prediction. You may know that I'm not a big fan of prediction because you can get it right, you can get it wrong, but more trying to build some scenarios that we may want to have in front of us as we develop new experiences in this area. I took the time to ask some of my friends in the industry who have direct experience or involved in this kind of experiences for fun. And the first one is for Mike Armstrong, the CMO of Juventus here in Torino. He has a kind of a very original approach. He's definitely doing a good job at Juventus. The numbers for social and everything they do in fun engagement are really big. They just launched a creator lab, so they're super active. But the fact that even a brand like Juventus should behave as a challenger brand, it means transformation is real time. So you really need to be extremely innovative, extremely risk-taking to really perform well. Then that's a good point, I think. So it's clear that this kind of fun engagement experience are evolving fast. You need to see what everybody's doing, especially in social, the new formats, the new languages. So it's a continuous new engagement models are coming up. And I think the language is also changing. So that in that sense, it's real time. You really need to be on the pulse. Nick Mitchell, CEO of Sports Pro, I think he's more speculating about, okay, but how do we measure this? Okay, if apart from defining fun engagement, which I don't think still anybody cracked the code, but I think it's important that you understand how you can measure things, because I think it's past the time of the cosmetic numbers the vanity numbers that you want to put in a PR. This is becoming a real part of the business, so you need real numbers and real meaningful stuff to really progress. So the concept that it was introduced by Sports Innovation Lab, the fluid fan. So how much do you know this fan? What kind of personalization makes sense? And are we creating experience that isolate fans, or should we more unite fans? I mean, it's kind of a complex scenario, I would say. Paula, it's my go-to person for anything YouTube and also social. I think what she's trying to say here is community is key. A community, you can enable community, facilitate community. You don't build communities because you can build by fans. On the other end, she's saying, look, if you look at the Kings League, Cosmos, Piqué, Kings League, you see an example of something that was born by a bit of sport and a bit of influencer mixed together from the origin of the creation of the event. So that's a deeper maybe case of fun engagement. So it seems that social dictates a bit what we all do, the way we build fun engagement experiences. I think it's not about copying, it's about embracing and trying to own the experience that you create. For sure, looking at what creators are doing, maybe even more what brands are doing, is a better space for innovation and ideas that you can then implement on your platforms. And going there to one of the points that is close to my heart is there is a duality between social, and we will see it later, and your what we call own and operated experiences, which is whatever you create and control. O&O, we always say. That's your website, your app, anything you do that is not on a social platform, basically. And that's where Andreas Heiden, with a lot of experience in Bundesliga and now at Dyn, is really working on how to use one part to, if you want, nurture the other one. So it's really social versus owned and operated. I think the obvious answer is, yeah, if you're a club, if you're a league, we should do both. Okay, thank you. That's not enough. So it's how you build this, I call it the engagement multi-layer funnel. It's much more complex now to build something that has certain maybe objectives when you do things on social, that is not only to bring in people, fans to your own and operated, may also monetize already there. So it's a very complex, and also it's a big debate. Should we do more? Should we do everything with YouTube or everything on social? Why do we have a website? What do we do with the app? Should we do a fantasy league? It's, I think, a lot of conversation has happened in the last years in this area with the different sport properties and media properties. So what I try, and this is one of the two complex slides that I've created. What I try to explain here is, before we go deeper, and especially because this area is so, I don't want to say confused, but, and I'm not sure this make it a lot more clear, but what I'm trying to do is, let's see what the fan engagement ecosystem is composed by. For sure, at the top, we can see the fans. Obviously, they're not all the same, so it's a generic cloud. And on the left, if you want, we have more the owned and operated side, okay? On the right, a bit more the social side. But the first touch point for fans are either the media, owned and operated, that could be streaming service or the website of a media company that mostly has rights, or not, but clearly the one with the rights are the more influential one. Then you can have a sport on an operated platform like the NBA app or the club website, etc. Then you may have moving a bit on the, if you want, third party, specific fan engagement on an operated, One Football or social. So apps that are not social platform per se, are not owned by a sport or media property, but they're vertically created to do some sort of fun engagement. And these are the touch points. So who is behind these touch points? On one side, brands, media with or without rights. At the core center, sports, being the teams, being the leagues, federation, the venues now, and also athletes, players. They're becoming like clearly crucial. They mostly, if you want, operate on the right side with social, but not really. They may have their own property that they build. So on the right side, everything's social big tech, and I put them together because sometimes it's difficult to say, especially now with the new tools, etc., if it's a social platform or not, but there's big tech behind. So clearly, the actors that are, everybody's playing on bottom left side and right side of the red layer. Creators are the, if you want, the biggest content generator of social and big tech. And the battle between creator and publisher, or not the battle, but the distinction between creator and publisher. I recently saw an interview with the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, and he was saying that they focus more on creators than on publisher. So I think it's clear that if you're at the center, if you're sport property, and you need to decide how to play in this ecosystem, it's quite sophisticated, right? You obviously want to be on all the major social platform and be present, and you have your own, way of doing it, and try to find a new language and excel in that and reach a lot of people. But more and more you understand that the real value may come from the left side. So from creating your own owned and operated and trying to create this fun engagement that is a bit longer term, deeper, more loyal, but especially focus on the value exchange, because in the end, it's the value exchange with the fan that is crucial. It's not only the brand association. That younger fans may be less loyal to a club, maybe, and more loyal to a player. So it's a very sophisticated environment to operate. And as I've spent my career, and we are talking to vendors very often, and not very often we talk about the vendors. To enable all of that, there's a lot of vendors that are at the infrastructure, platform, product, solution integrators, or even agency level. So it's clearly this is a taxonomy, but it's a complex ecosystem of vendors that provide mostly the left side. So yes, a vendor can provide something to a big tech or to big social media company, but these are few. They normally own and control a lot of what they do. For sure, they use partners, but the majority of the market available to vendors in this industry is on the left side. It's either media, sport, brands creating their own and operated, especially if you're in the sports tech and media sector. So I hope this was not too confusing, but at least that it's a way of visualizing, if you will, what is the ecosystem. It's clearly of a certain multidimensional complexity, and the ecosystem is more sophisticated in the past. In the past, you didn't have all these elements. There were few elements. Now they're growing, and things that are developing in these years, it's even making it more complex. And one thing that is clear is if you're playing, because the fans are accessing all of them. So if you want to play that game, you will need to compete with the big guys, with the big tech, with the big social media. You clearly, as a sport and media organization, you won't have those kind of budgets and teams. And so clearly, if you want to compete seriously, you need to compete at scale. And compete at scale is not super easy, not only on a technical sense, but also on a marketing sense, on a product sense. So you clearly have quite a task in front of you if your objective is, okay, I'll do things on social, but the real value comes from my own and operated, right? And this is one of the challenges that we all have in front of us, I think. So, and very often we talk about fun engagement, and I think there has been a kind of a journey from, this is very complex too, I will share the slides later on. So it's basically trying to describe from the easy times of consumption and broadcast, if you want, to step by step going closer to the fan, or with the fan more involved. So from pure consumption, which we're still all doing today, you started to have augmented view. You started to have reaction of fans. You started to have one-on-one interaction between fans. Then fans starting to create content on top of what was already provided by the sport environment. And then community that were fan-centric. And then collaboration, when fans are integrated by sport or media property in the content creation and production. I think that is really, if you want, an increased participation from fans, but also an increased tech complexity. So from broadcast to multicast to multi-unicast to many, especially if you think of doing this at scale and you're not Google or AWS or Meta, you need to find partners that can enable you to compete with those kind of experiences. So increased participation brings increased tech complexity, and you need. And the problem is that basically, like in the early times of the web, in the early times of streaming, where CDN was born, etc., you don't want your success. So the moment you start having traffic to be your failure because you're not ready at a technical level in terms of scale and redundancy, etc., etc. And I have to say, we have all seen it happening, for example, in streaming, right? So if we focus on real time, if we look at this summer, to be honest, in a few days, you will have Euro 2004 happening in Germany, just to simplify it, and Paris 2024 a few weeks later. Just imagine the amount of data that these two events will produce, not from the sport, the statistic, etc., but for all the conversation that will happen between digital and social. I'm used to visualize this thing because I had to build system for that. And this is like crazy. But we're still thinking, what we're doing today. But put on top of that, the kind of real-time need for more interactive experiences, and you see how this number explodes, and we may not have the infrastructure to make it happen properly. So you imagine betting at this level, you can imagine things like real-time fantasy league. So if this really starts, so if this kind of experiences that are more sophisticated, more interactive, more real-time, start to be adopted by even a fraction of the fans that are involved in these events, we may not be ready if we don't do it properly. And again, we are competing with the big guys, so we really need to think about where we're going. So we all know sport is real-time and has huge peaks, but also fans are used to be super served by big social media or the biggest apps. We are now used to have someone type to us and we see that they're typing. That seems like mundane, simple. But imagine doing this at scale, what it means in terms of data transfer, etc. So real time is becoming a de facto standard in fan engagement. But when we have to do it ourselves and we need that level of real-time scale, this is not something we have done before, to be honest. And then think about immersive experience. This is something I recorded at an event in Germany organized by the Bundesliga, where they were showcasing tracking with real-time recreation of the full player with limb tracking, it's called. So I don't have just the X, Y, Z of the player. I don't remember how many points of the body of the player. So I know where the hands are. I know everything about the player. So I can recreate, like in FC24, in a video game, high quality, the exact movement with 4 seconds of delay. And this is also used not only to put it on broadcast as a simulation, because obviously you have a 3D world recreation, but it's also done with Apple Vision Pro in this case. Let me see if I can run the video.
So what you're seeing here is the live skeletal data of all the players and the ball, which is perfectly synced with the game that is happening right now. And now I can really get closer, and we're not stopping here. So we are adding what you can see.
So imagine if this gets adopted, the amount of data that we're transferring to every single user. At the moment, not many have these little things on the head, but imagine if this is where we're going. The amount of data that we will transfer in real time just skyrockets. So more immersive, more engagement means a lot more data, like tons more data. So scaling these immersive experiences and doing it on our own experiences will be critical in the future. If this is the scenario, again, this is a scenario that could happen with everybody with a Vision Pro, maybe not, but clearly there is more immersiveness in sport going forward. Can we not talk about AI? In this case, it's a bit more complex to understand. So in theory, it is clear that the amount of data that AI moves is like enormous, right? But do we know exactly now if this will impact the amount of data that we, that we transform to the device, to the device that are in the hands of fans? Still to be seen. Is there a personalization, AI personalization happening on the device? I have no idea. But there are scenarios where this can, on one hand, simplify a lot and improve the personalization, but it also could increase the number of data that are transformed. So it seems possible that AI will enable richer experiences, AI personalized experiences. Will we have to move more data or not? Potentially, it seems so, but I'm not like 100% sure, but that's a scenario for sure. So in the end, let's see. The idea is if fan engagement grows, so people expect more real-time, more interactive fan engagement, at least a portion of people, because there's a lot of people with the first consumption model. They're happy. They just watch. They do something else sometimes, but that's it. But as we see, if users are super served from platforms that enable a lot of real-time fan engagement, this can possibly grow. If owned and operated or sport and media properties want to regain control in owned and operated experiences, they need to be built in a way that they can compare with the big social media, etc., or big tech thing. So that's clearly a challenge, especially if we need that, if we assume that this will be adopted, that this will be a success. So if data need to explode in this scenario, we need sustainable real-time scale. Otherwise, like we did with the web, with the first time everybody was developing website and a database directly connected. The moment the user increased a bit, they saw that it couldn't work. They put load balancer. I don't know, sorry for the techies, old as I am, that can understand these terms. Then at a certain point, there was reverse cache. Then at a certain point, CDN were introduced, and CDN for website. And then streaming came on, and it was a huge amount of data compared to website. So streaming CDNs were then invented, created, and put in place. Then obviously cloud exploded, and we are where we are now. But this is not built for this kind of real-time fan engagement, because that's super sophisticated. Imagine a lot of people chatting or expanding reaction, creating communities around live event in real time with a lot of data moving. And that's why, if you want, ABLY involved me in this event, because to be honest, when I saw their infrastructure and platform, and this is like honest reaction, I say, oh, I wish I had this thing 10, 12 years ago when I was building it myself, and it didn't really scale when it needed 100%. So I think there's a lot that could happen. So there's a lot of scenario where this world will really explode. And I hope, even if I replay it, I'm normally better when I have people in front of me. This is understandable, and some of the elements can be used in further discussion. Thank you. I'm a guy with a scarf. Ciao.